Iron Within and Iron Without brothers. Today, we're talking about the Iron Warriors lore accurate list. This has been a long time coming, and I'm super excited about it, especially with their major involvement in the new Horus Heresy release that just came out a few weeks ago. So, let's dive into it and talk about what it'll take to get the Iron onto the battlefield. So today we're going to be talking about the 4th Legion, the Iron Warriors. Of the Chaos Legions, this is probably one of my two favorites that I really enjoy. They're a unit that is very different from a lot of the ones I play, but I do eventually hope to build this list out and really bring them to the tabletop so that I can have some Chaos Space Marines besides the 1,000 Suns that I have here. The 4th Legion and their Primarch Perturabo are a very, very big influence on the Grimdark setting. They're very cold and calculating and very driven. And just like the video game we're going to be talking about next week, they have no problems with cannon fodder. They're perfectly willing to throw people to the wolves in order to make a breach and make it through the lines. They are experts in siege warfare and attrition and driving the enemies to the brink until they're forced to react. This is seen heavily throughout the Siege of Terra, despite as the Chaos Gods trying to push their champions away, like Fulgrim running around and doing his thing, and Angron destroying things indiscriminately, or Mortarion just walking around killing things because plague. There's a lot of very interesting things that Perturabo had to deal with during that siege that really actually gave me a lot of respect for him. He tried really hard. He's a very arrogant character, but given his successes and his abilities, that's not that shocking. Honestly, it's more shocking when you get someone like Sanguinius, who, in all of his Primarch glory, isn't actually that arrogant. That throws me off more than Perturabo being very arrogant and confident in what he can do. One of the best examples of how cold and calculating this Legion can be is when they laid siege to and destroyed Olympia because of their rebellion during the Great Crusade. It is a perfect demonstration of exactly how calculating Perturabo can be. And if you cross his calculations or do something that pushes against him and his will, that's what's going to happen. And it's a very sad, tragic story, but one that really lays the foundation for who they become, especially when you get to Istvan and the Dropsite Massacre, and all of the things that Perturabo actually did against especially his brother Vulcan and the Salamanders, wanting to completely eliminate them, even though those two never really had a beef beforehand. It was a very, very cold thing to watch how easily the Iron Warriors could shift and emotionlessly strike their brothers. Post-Heresy, they are still the masters of trench warfare, as well as demon forges and artillery. They strive to really stay independent of the Chaos Gods, but at this point, they're starting to delve pretty deeply in there. You do have the occasional one who has embraced Khorne or Tzeentch, which isn't super common, and I haven't heard of any that have embraced Slaanesh, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are some. And they're still pursuing their war with the Imperium through everything that's happened, despite being stuck in the Eye of Terror. So let's dive into the actual list and talk about what that'll look like on the tabletop. Today's video is brought to you by me and my company, Tartary Press. This is the company that manages both my writing career and Readers That Wargame. And we've got a couple big announcements. You might have actually heard last week that our website is up and running. And that's true. We also have some really cool merch on there. That's www.tylertartar.com. I'll have it pop up right here for you. And there you'll be able to get Readers That Wargame merch, all of my books, and merch related to my books as well. So make sure you go check that out. But to make it even better, we also have the Readers That Wargame Patreon that is available now. So you can go to the link in the description to the Patreon and check that out. We have some really cool tiers going with just a basic $2 tier where you get early access to each video. My goal is to have those early accesses come out on Friday, so you have the entire weekend to watch them before they go live for everyone else on Tuesday. We have a $5 tier where you get to vote on at least 2 of the episodes each month so that you can see what you want to see on this channel. And I'm super excited to have a lot more availability with you guys so that you can make those votes and choose and be more involved in this channel as well. We also have a $10 tier. This $10 tier includes everything from the first 2 tiers, but it also includes access to our community Discord and our community army. As you guys may remember from some of our posts and things like that on the channel, we've been building a custom army together using the polls, and I'm going to start naming units after you guys. At the $10 tier, it will be just a standard infantry unit, but there's a 4th tier. This one, honestly, if you guys want to do this, I appreciate it a lot. I don't expect it, but that one is the War Master tier. That tier is $100 a month, but you will be one of the main characters in the army. And on top of that, each quarter when I create a new shirt, you will get a copy. So make sure you guys go and check out that Patreon as well as our website to get really cool merch, access to my books, and on the Patreon, access to all the videos early, community discords, and things like that. And let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below or on Patreon so that we can make this even better for all of you. Now let's get back to the video. So this list is actually a pretty small one. There's going to be a lot of very big chunky things. That's just how the Iron Warriors operate. So let's dive into this and get this list out for you so you can see what you're looking at. First, we're going to be starting with our Warlord, and that's going to be a Chaos Lord in Terminator armor. Terminator armor is a big part of the Iron Warriors and what they do. They do use a lot of Legionaries as well, but the Terminators are the big chunky thing that they use for a lot of the heavy-hitting sieges and attacks to better protect their guys as well as punch harder. On top of that, we do have a Warpsmith. This Warpsmith will be used kind of like a Tech Marine to work on the demon engines that we're going to be bringing to the table. We also have a squad of Legionaries. These Legionaries are used a lot for screening and mobility and sometimes cannon fodder, but most of the time they're used to hold back lines or strike at objectives while the Terminators do their thing and punch. In this case, these Legionaries will be paired with the Warpsmith most likely, but you may want to separate them depending on how you want to play this. I also included 2 squads of Chaos Terminators to give us as much punch as we can because that's how they're going to want to play. We also have a squad of Raptors to do rapid deployments and actions. These Raptors are pretty common. You do see several jump pack units in the Iron Warriors that are used for strategic positioning and striking. And that breaks up the actual units. We do have a lot of vehicles in this list because that's what the Iron Warriors do. If it's big and it shoots, they enjoy it. So I did include 1 Chaos Land Raider so that we can move our Legionaries around or Terminator squad around depending on how you want to play it and who you're playing. I also included a Forge Fiend to give us the punch we need. And we also included a Hellbrute because Dreadnoughts for Iron Warriors is a pretty normal thing. They are very willing to do that so that they can fully embrace the Iron Within and the Iron Without. I also included a Mauler Fiend to give us a little bit more melee up front and help screen and give us an up-close and personal punch. We also included a Venom Crawler for pretty much the same reasons. These will give us a lot of good screening and abilities to control the tabletop when we don't have a ton of units. Finally, we have the Iron Warriors bits. These you're going to have to pull from the Horus Heresy because these do not exist in 40k, which is dumb. It also means you're going to have to do some probable kit bashing to make this look good and make it work properly, but I think if you do it right, you're going to have a fantastic looking army. So next, let's talk about how much this is going to cost to build and go from there. Most of you guys are probably aware how we do this by now, but in case you're new, we break this down into 3 categories. We have the full retail price. This is if you buy it from Warhammer.com or Warhammer stores. This is full retail price. I do not recommend buying it this way at all. It's not going to be a good purchase. Second, we have the value cost. This is going to be based off of Wargame Portal and Amazon. Here in the United States, those are the two best to buy from. In order to keep these dollar values simple, we do this in a unit-by-unit basis. I always recommend looking at combo boxes, combat patrols, things like that, as well as looking at secondhand markets and your local game stores to see what kind of other discounts you can get. You will be able to save additional money that way. And third is the fluffy list. The fluffy list is how we want to make this look as good as we possibly can. This is done by including several Horus Heresy units to proxy for our main characters. By doing this, we're able to give it an even more Iron Warriors aesthetic and make it look even better. So let's go and talk retail so that we know what the baseline we're looking at is. And this one is surprisingly cheap. I was actually surprised how inexpensive the Iron Warriors are going to be, and honestly, this might be my next army build because of that. So the retail cost of the Iron Warriors build is going to be $713.50 at retail, which, like I said, that's surprisingly cheap. This may be the cheapest one we've ever done. And on top of that, it's a pretty playable list. It's going to be a pretty punchy list on the tabletop and do a lot of really cool things. And it gets even better once we look at the retail price and we start thinking about what it would actually look like if we get into combo boxes. The value total on this, so if we go through Wargame Portal and Amazon exclusively, buying it one box at a time, it's going to cost us $629.04, which is the cheapest one we've ever done as far as I can see by a fair amount, like probably at least $100 cheaper. So any of you who've been considering playing the Iron Warriors, maybe check this list out. It's not bad. It's really not bad for a 2,000 point list to only have to spend $650. So with all of that, if we wanted to take it to the fluffy list is going to change out three things. We're going to change out our Chaos Lord and Terminator armor for an Iron Warriors Warsmith from Horus Heresy. We're going to change out our Terminators for Iron Warriors Siege Terminators from Horus Heresy. And finally, we're going to change out the Hellbrute for the Siege Dreadnought with ranged weapons. This will give us a much more aesthetic feel. With that, you're also going to do the Iron Warriors chassis. With Horus Heresy, you have to build out the chassis separately from the weapons combination. It's kind of weird that way. But by doing that, you're going to get a very, very unique Hellbrute that looks really cool. You'll still play him with the Hellbrute rules, but by doing that, it's going to feel very Iron Warriors-esque. The best part is, by proxying this way, this is all still tournament legal. It's all GW plastic, which is the requirement. So I would love to see one of these armies played on a tabletop. And if you are an Iron Warriors player, please let us know in the comments below. Maybe tell us where we can see pictures for it. It's one of the coolest aesthetics I've ever seen. I'm not a fan of painting hazard stripes. I'm not excited about that. But I have done some more intricate painting that maybe you guys will see on my Instagram later once it's done. But now that we know what this is going to cost and what it's going to look like, let's jump over and talk about how to paint it and get it ready for the tabletop. Okay, so painting this one's going to be interesting. There's a lot of really cool things you're going to be able to do with it and make it look good. But to start us off, the foundation is pretty simple. It's going to be a very cold steel look on the metallics. You're going to be doing a lot of a silver or a gunmetal to give them that very unpainted look to their armor. And this is something that the Iron Warriors are very proud of, and that is going to be the majority of their armor. On top of that, they do hazard stripings on the pauldrons, and as well as on their tanks and things like that. That is going to be the hard part. Now, there's going to be some secrets to making this look good that are pretty straightforward. The first one's going to be for the hazard stripes. Use masking tape to get good, clean lines. If you're airbrushing it, that will be easier than if you're brushing it. But for those of us who aren't very good with an airbrush for intricate details, brushing with masking tape is actually pretty straightforward and pretty simple. You may just have to do it one stripe at a time and then wait for one color to dry, or base the entire thing in black and then do the yellow stripes over the top. That would probably be what I'd recommend. On top of that, for this, Null Oil is going to be your friend. I would actually look at maybe doing a couple of them, especially if you're doing 40k themed Iron Warriors. I would look at doing a dry brush rust to fill in a lot of the edges and cavities. And once that's dry, I'd follow it up with a darker brown Null Oil. One of my personal favorites is Army Painter Strong Tone. It's a very good Null Oil that gives that more dirty feel than a black does. Black does a really good job looking like shadow, while that Strong Tone makes things look dirty and recessed. And it's one that I've used pretty heavily. It actually does a decent job with shadow on brighter colors as well, because a shadow on a yellow would look more brown than black. So I would actually absolutely recommend that. On top of that, you can do a lot of sponge work for weathering to give that feel that it has been in the Eye of Terra for a long time. A lot of the armor worn by the Iron Warriors has been around since pre-heresy. So a lot of it should be weathered, it should be chipped, it should be rusted, and I think it wouldn't be a hard aesthetic to do. The big thing you're going to have to look at is what type of feel you're going to want for your Iron Warriors. Yes, they may have some more spikes, but a lot of the Iron Warriors are very driven by that cold, clean, utilitarian aspect. So having spikes and chains hanging everywhere hasn't really ever been their feel. They're going to look more akin to Space Marines. Now, having deformations and things like that is very plausible and is something that I think the Iron Warriors will have as well. But I would look at maybe trimming and filing down some of the more flamboyant chaos aspects of your characters to make sure you stick as close to the Iron Warriors theme and how they act as possible. And I think if you do that, you're going to see a really, really cool chaos Iron Warriors army with not a ton of effort. So let's wrap up with the tactics and get you guys back to the tabletop. So now that your army's ready to play, let's talk about how you're going to want to play them. The first thing you're going to want to do is use the Failhammer Siege Host detachment for your Iron Warriors. This will give them the opportunity to use the Iron Fortitude ability as well as to have a lot more of that Iron Warriors feel on the tabletop. Also, because we're running heavy on this list, you're going to be looking to do a lot more midboard control and firepower suppression, using a lot of your big shooty guys to screen the enemy and keep them away from what you're doing, while having your legionaries and your raptors picking off objectives and stratagems. The big thing with Iron Warriors is you're not going to be doing any big flashy charges. You're not going to be doing any major pushes. You're going to be wearing down your opponent. You're going to be cutting them down and pushing them back into their objective in a slow, methodical way in order to keep them under control and hem them in. And once you've done that, your weight of firepower should be enough to either wipe them from the board or restrict their movements to a point where you have control of the board. And by doing that, you're going to see a lot of success. The big thing I would be very careful of is making sure you don't overextend. You don't have a lot of units. So pushing very carefully and very methodically is what's going to win you the game for sure. That is the basic strategy I'd recommend for your Iron Warriors host. So let me know in the comments below if you're an Iron Warriors player and have other suggestions. Please let us know. Like I said, this is one I'm intrigued in, and I may do eventually once I have the time and money. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. That goes a lot way to getting us to where we want to be. We're very, very close to 500 subscribers, at which point we'll be able to include our merch store down below. We have merch currently on my website, www.tylercharter.com, where you'll be able to get Readers That Wargame merch. There's a lot of really cool stuff there, as you saw earlier in the video. And on top of that, we do have a Patreon. The Patreon gets you a lot of really cool things like early access to videos, voting on what type of videos we're going to be doing in the next month, as well as really, really cool stuff we're doing, like our custom army. You'll be able to see what's going on there. I'm just about to start getting those painted, and I'm super excited for that. And depending on which tier you go on, you may actually become part of that army as a named unit. We'll be printing off nameplates with my 3D printer that's behind me here to label them with your name on them so that each character is named for you, depending on which tier you go on with our Patreon as well. And let's get back to tabletop and get playing.